Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 92 in the book of Acts. We're finishing the first missionary journey. And here's what's cool about the book of Acts is that as you're going through the book of Acts, many of the books and the events of the New Testament reach out and touch the book of Acts. And other books intersect with the book of Acts. And the book of Galatians is front and center today. All right, so we're finishing the first missionary journey today, and it was a trip to a bunch of cities, and those names are relatively unfamiliar with most of us. There's a couple cities on Cyprus, and then he goes to Perga, then he goes to Antioch in Pisidia, then he goes to Iconium, and then he goes to Lystra and Derbe. And the four cities of Antioch, Iconium, Lystra, and Derbe are summarized by a single word, which is familiar to everybody, and that is Galatia. Those four cities are the province of Galatia. So when Paul writes the book of Galatians, he is writing to this region which we're talking about and finishing about today. All right, so back to the first missionary journey. This is going to be the last few words of the missionary journey. It lasted 1 or 2 years. It was Paul and Barnabas, and for a while John Mark was with them, at least for the easy part of the trip. He was the assistant who stopped assisting. Remember, it was not their first missionary journey. It was Paul's third. It was Barnabas's sixth, but it's called the first missionary journey. They all were involved in ministry before this. Okay, so I want to read the last part of the missionary journey. This is where they're landing the plane after going off, and they go back to Antioch. This is what Paul is doing. I'm going to read from where they're farthest inland, that is Derbe. The next day he went with Barnabas to Derbe. This is from Acts chapter 14, verse 21. When they had preached the gospel to that city and made many disciples, they returned to Lystra, now they're backtracking, to Iconium, backtracking, and to Antioch, backtracking. And this is what they did, strengthening the souls of the disciples, encouraging them to continue in the faith, and saying that through many tribulations we must enter the kingdom. And when they had appointed elders for them in every church, with prayer and fasting, they committed them to the Lord in whom they had believed. Then they're going to backtrack some more. Then they passed through Pisidia and came to Pamphylia. And when they had spoken the word in Perga, they went down to Attalia, that's the port town, and from there they sailed to Antioch. And that's back in Syria. That's where they started the journey, where they had been commended to the grace of God for the work that they had fulfilled. And when they arrived and gathered the church together, they declared all that God had done with them and how he had opened a door of faith to the Gentiles, and they remained no little time with the disciples. So here it is. They go back to Antioch by way of every church that they had previously been to. Now remember, they did not have a smooth journey. In Antioch in Pisidia, they literally shook the dust off their feet. And in Iconium, they wanted to stone Paul. And in Lystra, they wanted to stone Paul and did stone Paul. And then in Derbe, I think everything was fine. They had a uneventful time there and made lots of converts. But then after they were in Derbe, the farthest point of the first missionary journey, then they backed through the town where he got stoned, through the town where they wanted to stone him, and through the town where they shook the dust off symbolically. Why did he do that? Well, he wanted to encourage the disciples and set up elders and just encourage these brand new churches. All right, so when you read, if you go to the the book of Galatians, it says, Paul, an apostle, to all the brothers who were with me, to the churches of Galatia. So when you read that, Galatia is not one place, it's a region, and Lystra, Derbe, Iconium, and Antioch, they're all within that region. So today we're learning about the region of Galatia. All right, third point I wanted to make is that the work that they had was fulfilled. They were commended to the grace of God for the work that they had fulfilled. So they had been called, first of all, back in chapter 13 when this missionary journey started. They gathered and they set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them. And then finally, what they describe when they get back to their sending city, they come back and they tell them that the Lord has opened a door of faith, and it's a special door of faith. It's never been opened before. What is it? It's a door of faith for the Gentiles. So this speaks of the sovereignty and the election and the plan of God, known before the creation of the world, that this door of faith is a directional door of intimate, personal, and timely is also struck me. There's a time for the door to open for individuals of opportunity. For example, when he was on Cyprus and he met a man named Sergius Paulus, who was a proconsul, because he was in the city of Salamis. My point is, he never went back to that city ever again. So Sergius Paulus kind of had this one shining opportunity. And then finally, last thing I want to say is that when they got back, they remained no little time with the disciples. Where? In Antioch of Syria. And this is the moment where Galatians comes back in. Not only was he just physically in Galatia, the region, here, this is where he writes the book of Galatians. So as soon as he gets off the bus, he revisits all these places a second time, and then he writes them instantly. He writes them when he's in Antioch and encourages them with the book of Galatia and get your doctrine correct. All right, so final points. Number one, what is the work of the Lord that you've been set apart for? Are you engaged in it? So I can think of two things. One is think about your gifts. And then the second thing is one of the things the Lord calls us to, one of the works, I'm putting that in quotes, air quotes here, is he calls us to himself. That is, if you're a believer, the Holy Spirit is within you, and I think we're supposed to enjoy that. He went to great trouble to do that, so let's enjoy that and utilize this and walk with the Spirit. And then secondly, final charge is if you don't have the Holy Spirit within you, then maybe today's the day that the Lord would open a door of faith for you. Thanks for walking this walk through Galatia and the first missionary journey. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening.